Hi everybody, I'm going to do a quick review of Carvana, buying a car online. A lot of people have asked me that knew I was buying a car online to let them know how it went because they're kind of curious. It's a new process. So first let me start with why I bought a car on Carvana. Um, I've been going to dealerships for a few months and looking at cars, and the used car prices right now are really high and dealers aren't negotiating. The price they post online is what it is. A lot of times the price they post is lower, and then by the time you get through the dealer fees and the delivery charge and everything, it's really expensive. So I tried negotiating with several dealerships and just wasn't getting anywhere. I also couldn't really find the car that I wanted online, which is a Honda Civic Sport Touring. I couldn't find it anywhere in dealerships. And if I could, I couldn't find the color I wanted, or like the one that I'm sitting in right now, actually I ended up with, was really overpriced. So for me, one of the best parts of buying a car is going and haggling. I love haggling. My wife will tell you she gets uncomfortable. I really enjoy it. I haggled on my truck that I bought for 45 minutes over 50 bucks. I always get free floor mats. I always try to get something else thrown in on our minivan. I got a free trailer hitch installed. So I always try to get something. I always try to feel like I got a good deal. And I just wasn't getting that at dealerships. And looking online, it's no haggle. The price is what the price is. It's pretty straightforward. So I kept seeing ads on Carvana. And they had the vehicle I wanted. It was $2,000 to $3,000 cheaper than I could find it anywhere else, even at CarMax. So one Sunday morning, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. So I started the process, and I will say honestly, it took about 20 minutes to fill out the credit app and schedule the delivery and everything. And this was on a Sunday, and they said that they could deliver it by Saturday of the next week. And I thought there was no way they're going to have this car to me in a week. I figured something was going to go wrong. I figured when I was getting through the application process, it was going to tell me to pick a date, and it was going to be 2-3 weeks out. But they legitimately, it was confirmed for a week, and then throughout the week, I was getting text messages saying your car's on schedule, your car will be there Saturday, yada yada yada. So I would say it was a fantastic buying process. The only thing that was bad about it was the interest rate. So the interest rate that they offered me, I have an 830 credit score. The interest rate was pretty much 5%, which is terrible. But they don't have any penalties for paying off early. So my plan was to just instantly switch over with my local credit union bank and refinance it as soon as I got the vehicle. I just figured there was no point in doing a loan because I wasn't sure if I was going to send it back. So Carvana does offer a 7-day return policy, no hassle. They don't start the financing process till after the 7 days, so you can send the car back. More on that a little bit later. But so anyway, the day of, they're gonna deliver the car, and I get a call that morning, and the guy says, "Hey, I just want to let you know I'm running 10 minutes late." Da da da. Okay, no problem. And he says, and also there was some front end damage to the car. It was done during loading, I believe, but it's outside our specs, so we'll take care of it. It's not that big of a deal. It's some body damage. I said, okay, well, as long as you guys are going to take care of it, no big deal. Come on. So about 10 minutes later, he calls me back, and he said, hey, I should have mentioned this before, but I forgot to say there's a slight cigarette smell in the car. So I'm like, okay. I was like, well, just bring it here, and we'll see what happens. So he brings it, he drops it off, I test drive it, and it's definitely got a slight cigarette smell. The best way to describe it, it had an orange smell to it. It smelled like maybe an orange was smoking a cigarette. So I talked to him, he shows me the damage, and he tells me, you got 7 days. I said, okay, well, I didn't really read all the fine print, so I'm assuming when you come pick it back up, if I don't want it, you charge me for delivery. He's like, nope, 100%, 7 days, no hassle, money back, everything. I was like, okay, well, leave it, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm going online, I'm reading about getting cigarette smell out of cars, which is pretty much impossible, by the way. But I see this stuff called Ozium. So I run down the store, I buy that, and I come in, I spray it. Lo and behold, Ozium smells like oranges. So they already tried to spray Ozium in the car to get rid of it. He told me they did an ozone treatment on the car with a machine. I think he lied, and all they did was spray Ozium in there, which didn't work, by the way. So then the next day, I rubbed everything down with vinegar and water, and it made the smell better, but didn't get rid of it. The next day, I bought an ozone generator off of Amazon. If you don't know what that is, it's pretty interesting, so if you want to Google that. And I ran an ozone generator in the car for 2 or 3 treatments of a half hour, cleaned it, ran it with the windows down. By Wednesday, I had come to the realization that this just wasn't going to work, and I needed to send the car back. So I tried calling Carvana on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, actually Monday and Tuesday, because I want to talk to them about maybe swapping it. You can swap for a different car. And they had another one on there, same exact year. It had 3 times the miles. The one I had 10,000 miles on it. This one had 30,000, but they were the same exact price. So I was kind of confused, and I'm thinking that the reason the one I got was so cheap was because it smelled like Satan's ashtray. Um, so I was trying to get through to him, and every time I would call, the wait time was longer than 30 minutes. One night I stayed on for 45. I also clicked the button to get a call back. Nobody called me back. But the text message system was very responsive. So anytime I had a question, I would text, and I would either get a text back instantly from a bot, or I would get a text back in like an hour or two from a person. So I ended up on Wednesday doing the entire return process via text, which was a little daunting because you don't really know who you're talking to. But it went fine. So we scheduled the return for Friday. Was the only day they could do it. And I had to get it done Friday because that was the last of my 7 days. So I scheduled the return for Friday. And then Wednesday, I went down to West Broad Honda. They had the overpriced Civic that I was telling you about before. I ended up calling them, and I talked to somebody, a sales guy named Gerard. Was a pretty nice dude. And I said, hey, is the price negotiable? He's like, yeah, well, everything's negotiable. I was like, my man, that's what I needed to hear. So we started texting, and in about 2 hours via text, I had it negotiated down to a price that I felt good about. So I went down there, and the only thing I couldn't get was the free floor mats via text. But then when I got down there, you bet your bottom dollar I got those floor mats thrown in for free. But overall, it's a great car. I'm happy with it. The West Broad Honda experience was really good. The only thing that was bad, there were two things. One, I was there for 3 hours. Even though we really didn't negotiate anything, just the whole process of the paperwork and everything took 3 hours versus Carvana that took 20 minutes. And then they tried to mess me over on the interest rate. So they offered me a really high interest rate at first, and they said this is best we can do. And I said, well, that's fine. I'm just going to refinance with my bank. They said, well, who's your bank? And then I told them it was Henrico. Then they ran under Henrico, and then they came back with SunTrust at even lower. So originally they offered me 3.8, and then they came back at 2.6, which I thought was pretty good on a used car. So I got that deal all done, took this home, which is the funny picture some of you saw with 2 cars in the driveway. So Carvana comes Friday to come pick the car up, and they call me about an hour before they're supposed to come, and they say, hey, I'm running a little late, just want to let you know, blah, blah. Okay. I said, well, do you have the check? And I'll circle back to this in a minute, but I sold them my Mini Cooper, and they were supposed to be bringing me a check for the car because I had applied the deposit of my Mini Cooper to this car. And he said, yeah, let me look. And then he's, yeah, we got it. And then he calls me back, and he says, hey, we noticed some misspellings on the check, so we can't bring the check. So I'm working with corporate right now to figure out what we're going to do. And I'm like, okay. Well, what's wrong? What's spelled wrong on the check? He said, oh, your first and last name are spelled wrong on the check. I'm like, okay, that's weird. So then hang up. So then he calls me back again later. So mind you, we're now an hour behind schedule. He hasn't even left Petersburg yet. And he says, hey, I talked to corporate. They're going to mail you a check. You'll get it in 10 to 15 days. I'm like, 10 to 15 days? I need this money for my new car. So the dealership let me do an IOU on the down payment because they understood all my money was wrapped up with Carvana right now. So then I had to call Carvana again, get through to somebody. I called Carvana on Thursday too and ended up getting through. What I think with calling them is the beginning of the week, their phone lines are flooded because everybody's got a car over the weekend and is calling. By Wednesday or Thursday, you can actually get through, and I will say that their people were really polite. So the lady I talked to really didn't help me much, but what she told me was that they cut the check on Wednesday and mailed it to me, so they couldn't do anything else because they cut the check. So apparently they've never heard of canceling a check because I asked if they could just deposit it in my account, and she said no, because they already cut the check. And my argument with her was, I never told you to cut a check. What you told me was someone was going to bring it to me. I never approved for you to mail me one. We went back and forth. But then the other thing I found interesting was, how was this check cut on Wednesday when that was the day I called to have my car returned, when they're telling me that they just found out today that the check was misspelled in the office. So I think they were kind of lying to me there. So anyway, he comes and picks up the car finally. He's about 2 hours late, which kind of messed up my day, to be honest with you. But he was a nice guy, it's not his fault, and he rolled the car up. So a couple of things that I've kind of skipped over here is the damage to the vehicle. That wasn't as easy as they said it was going to be. So I got an email the next day after they dropped it off, and it basically put the whole thing on me. So I had to take it to a body shop. I had to get a quote. I had to find a body shop that was willing to work with Carvana or their insurance company. I don't remember what it was called. And then send it to them. Then they would approve it. Then I had to get it fixed, and I had to do all this before December 4th. So it was actually like 20 days I had to get this whole thing done, which would have been really hard because, like a lot of you, I work. So that would have sucked. That was another reason why I sent it back. And then the other thing is they took the deposit out of my account, so now I have to wait for that to come back. So I have over $7,000 tied up with Carvana right now that I just have to wait to come back. But they've guaranteed that it will, and I have no reason to not believe them. Um, and then the final thing I would talk about was my used car. So selling my used car to them was awesome. My car had some issues. I hit a couple deer with it. It was not in mint condition, and I was honest about that. They asked you questions about the car, and they gave me an estimated price that was right about where Kelly Blue Book valued it for the condition it was in. And when they came to pick it up, I assumed they were going to tell me, oh, well, we didn't know about this or that, or we see this. None of that. They loaded it up, told me good to go. So that process was really smooth. And then also, you can just sell them a car. So as far as Carvana goes, if you have a used car you just want to get rid of, I would say they're a great option because they take the car, they go, and you're done. If you're going to buy a car from them, I would say be prepared. You can get a really good deal, but there's a chance you'll get something that's not great. The beauty of is they do have this 7-day, which does seem to be at this point a no hassle return policy. It's been fairly smooth. I think that they have a really good business model idea. I think it might need some refining. I think that the car should have been labeled as a smoking car, and I would have never bought it. The other thing is they had another vehicle, again, same price, 30,000 miles, that they would have swapped if I could have got a hold of anybody. I probably would have continued to be a customer of theirs, because I did pay a little bit more for the one I bought from the dealership, which I knew I would. That's why I wanted to go through Carvana. So if I had to rate them, I would say like 2 stars, but I think there's potential there for them to be good, and as society changes and things, but they are a used car dealership, so you're kind of dealing with, there might be a little bit of sketchy there just in a virtual platform instead of seeing somebody face to face. So that's about all I've got to say on that. Hope you appreciate the review, and I hope it helps you. And if you have any questions about Carvana, you're thinking about doing it, just shoot me a message. I will certainly give you my feedback. Thanks.